Elias noticed her because she did not move. The corridor outside his living block was usually empty at this hour. The station lights dimmed during rest cycle, turning the metal walls a soft blue-gray. Most species slept when the lights dimmed. Most humans did too. Elias was already tired, his shoulders heavy from a long shift repairing sensor arrays on the outer ring. He almost walked past her. She stood near the wall, small and still, her body close to the floor. At first, Elias thought she was a maintenance unit powered down in the wrong place. Then she shifted slightly, and the movement was too organic, too careful. He stopped. She was not human. Her skin had a pale, soft shine, like moonlight on water. Her limbs were thin, her posture folded inward, as if she was trying to take up as little space as possible. Large, dark eyes reflected the corridor lights, unblinking. She looked at him. Elias felt the familiar tightening in his chest that came whenever he met an alien face unexpectedly. He had lived on the station for 3 years, worked with dozens of species, and still that feeling never fully went away. Not fear exactly. More like standing at the edge of something unknown. He said, then cleared his throat. "Can I help you?" The translation unit in his ear hummed softly, searching for language. Nothing came back. She did not answer. She only tilted her head slightly, as if listening to something he could not hear. Elias checked his wrist display. No alerts, no warnings, no quarantine notices. That alone was strange. Any unregistered being wandering residential corridors should have triggered something. "Are you lost?" he asked. Her hands moved. They were delicate, with long fingers that curled inward toward her chest. She made a quiet sound, not a word, more like a breath catching halfway. Then she took a small step toward him. Elias stepped back without thinking. Not far, just enough to remind himself to keep space. Station rules were clear about unexpected contact. Safety first, protocol always. She froze instantly. The reaction was sharp. Her shoulders tightened and her eyes widened. The soft shine of her skin dimmed, as if the light was draining from her. Elias felt a twist of guilt he did not understand. "It's okay," he said quickly, holding his hands up, palms open. I'm not going anywhere!" The translation unit clicked. A fragment came through, broken and weak. "Alone!" The word was stretched, imperfect, but clear enough to make Elias pause. "Alone?" he repeated, her eyes fixed on him. Slowly, carefully, she nodded. Elias looked down the corridor behind him. Empty. Quiet. The station seemed to be holding its breath. "Do you need help finding your quarters?" he asked. She did not respond. Instead, she took another step toward him. This time, she stopped closer than before, just outside what humans usually called personal space. Elias swallowed. Something about the way she stood, tense, alert, ready to retreat, reminded him of a stray animal he had once found near his childhood home. Not aggressive, just scared and waiting for a sign.
"I'm Elias," he said, tapping his chest lightly. "Human."
Technician. The translation unit flickered again. "Elias." She repeated his name softly, as if testing its shape. Then, she surprised him by turning and walking past him. Elias blinked and turned around. She was moving down the corridor toward his quarters. "Hey, wait," he said, hurrying after her. "That's not—" She stopped at his door. The panel recognized his presence and lit up. She looked at it, then at him, then back at the door. Her posture relaxed just a little, like someone reaching the edge of shelter in a storm. Elias stared at her, his mind racing. "You followed me?" he asked. She looked up at him again. Slowly, she nodded. Station rules flashed through his head. Do not bring unregistered aliens into private quarters. Do not interfere with xenobiological cases. Report immediately. He opened a channel to station security on his wrist display. Before he could speak, she made that soft, broken sound again. Her hands tightened against her chest. The light of her skin dimmed further. "Don't," the translator whispered. It was barely audible, but it was enough. Elias hesitated. He had no idea what her species was. No idea why she was here. No idea why she had chosen him. But he knew that whatever fear lived behind those eyes was real.
"I'm just going to talk to someone," he said carefully. "That's all." Her gaze dropped to the floor.
Her body trembled, just slightly. "Alone?"
"Bad," the translator murmured.
Elias closed the channel. He exhaled slowly, rubbing his face with one hand. "This is a bad idea," he muttered. The door panel waited. Elias looked at her again. She stood quietly now, as if she had already decided the outcome and was simply waiting for it to happen. He pressed his palm to the panel. The door slid open. She did not rush inside. She waited until he stepped in first. Only then did she follow, moving quickly, as if afraid the door might vanish behind her. The door closed. The room lights brightened automatically. Elias's quarters were small but clean. A narrow sleeping platform, a desk, a storage unit, and a single viewport looking out into the stars. She stood just inside the door, eyes moving rapidly, taking everything in. "Okay," Elias said, voice low. "This is temporary, just until we figure out where you belong." She did not seem to hear him. Her attention was fixed on the sleeping platform. She took a step toward it, then stopped and looked back at him, uncertain.
"Together?" the translator guessed. Elias's heart skipped.
"No," he said quickly, then softened his tone. "No, not like that, just safe." He moved to the desk and pulled out a thermal blanket, setting it on the floor at the far end of the room. "You can rest there," he said. "I'll stay over here." She watched him closely as he moved. Every sound he made seemed to matter. When he finished, he stepped back and sat on the edge of the platform, keeping his movements slow and clear. She hesitated for a long moment. Then she crossed the room and settled near the blanket, but not on it. Instead, she curled up halfway between the blanket and the bed, close enough that she could see him clearly. Elias frowned. "That's not what I meant." She lay down carefully, folding herself inward. Her eyes stayed on him the entire time. The room grew quiet. Minutes passed. Elias waited for alarms, for security to knock, for his wrist display to light up with warnings. Nothing happened. Slowly, her breathing changed. It became deeper, steadier. The light of her skin softened, growing warmer instead of dimmer. Elias realized, with a strange tightening in his chest, that she was falling asleep. He did not move. Outside the viewport, stars drifted past in silence. Elias sat there, watching over a being he did not understand, wondering when exactly he had stopped following station protocol, and why. For the first time in a long while, it felt like the right thing to do. And somewhere deep inside the station's vast systems, something ancient and unnoticed recorded a small but important anomaly. A human had been chosen, and he had not turned away. He sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, listening to the quiet sounds of the station and the softer sounds of her breathing. Every few minutes he glanced at her to make sure she was still there, still calm. She did not move much. Her body stayed curled in on itself, her limbs tucked close. Only the slow rise and fall of her chest showed that she was resting. The soft light of her skin stayed steady now, no longer dim or flickering. Elias had seen many alien species, but none like this. Most had clear rules, clear needs, clear warnings. This one felt fragile in a way that had nothing to do with physical strength. Carefully, Elias stood up and moved toward the desk. He kept his steps slow and light. When he shifted too suddenly, her breathing changed for a moment, faster, shallow. He froze until it settled again. "Okay," he whispered, though he did not know who he was speaking to. Easy! He activated his wrist display and opened a private channel to xenobiology records. The station database scrolled through species files, names, symbols, warnings. Nothing matched her. That worried him more than anything else. Unregistered species did not just wander into residential areas. This station was one of the most controlled places in human space. Everything that entered was tracked. Everything that lived here was known. He tried a different search. Recent arrivals. Medical transports. Diplomatic envoys. Still, nothing. Elias leaned back in his chair and rubbed his eyes.
"What are you doing here?"
he murmured. As if hearing him, her fingers twitched. A faint sound escaped her, almost like a sigh, but heavier. Elias looked over quickly. Her eyes were open. She was watching him. He held still. "Sorry," he said softly.
"Did I wake you?" She did not answer with words. Instead, she shifted slightly, uncurling just a little.
The light of her skin brightened when their eyes met. The translator hummed. "Ear," it offered. "Safe."
Elias swallowed. "You're safe," he repeated. "Yes, you are."
Her gaze stayed fixed on him. Slowly, carefully, she moved closer, dragging herself across the floor until she was only a short distance from the bed. She stopped there, waiting. Elias felt a strange pull in his chest. Not fear, not desire, something closer to responsibility.
"Is that better?"
he asked. She made a soft sound that the translator did not even try to shape into words, but her breathing slowed again, and her eyes closed. Elias did not move back. Hours passed like that. When the station lights slowly brightened to signal the start of active cycle, Elias felt stiff and exhausted. He had not slept, but his mind felt sharp, alert in a way it usually was not. She stirred as the lights changed. Her body tensed instantly, like a coiled wire. "It's okay," Elias said quickly. "Just morning lights." She opened her eyes, confused. The brightness made her skin glow more strongly for a moment. She scanned the room, then focused on him again. "Still," the translator whispered.
"You?" "Yes," Elias said.
"I'm still here." That seemed to matter more than anything else. Elias knew he could not keep this quiet much longer.
People would notice. Systems would notice. The station never missed anomalies for long. "I need to talk to someone," he said, choosing his words carefully. "Doctors, scientists. They can help." Her eyes widened. "No," the translator said, clearer this time. Elias raised his hands gently.
"Not to take you
Away, just to understand. She studied his face for a long moment. Then, slowly, she leaned forward until her forehead touched the edge of the bed. The contact was light, almost unsure. The translator struggled. "If alone, Break," it said. Elias felt his chest tighten painfully. "Break?" he echoed. She pulled back slightly, her hands trembling. The light of her skin flickered again, faintly. Dark. End. Elias did not fully understand the words, but he understood the fear behind them. "You won't be alone," he said firmly, though he did not know how he would keep that promise. "I won't let that happen." Her eyes searched his face as if testing his honesty. Finally, she nodded once. Elias opened a secure channel to medical services. Within minutes, his wrist display chimed. "Medical Officer Harlan," a calm voice said. "This channel is private. What's going on, Elias?" Elias took a breath. "I have an unregistered alien in my quarters. She followed me home. I think she's in distress." There was a pause.
Is anyone injured?
Harlan asked. No, Elias said.
But she's terrified of being alone. I mean that literally. Another pause, longer this time. Can you bring her to medical? Harlan asked.
Elias looked at her. At the mention of leaving the room, her body tensed again. She shook her head slowly. She won't come, Elias said.
Not without me. Then stay where you are, Harlan replied. We'll come to you.
Elias felt both relief and fear at the same time. When the channel closed, he turned back to her. Some people are coming, he said. They want to help. She watched him closely. You? The translator asked.
I'll be here, he said. The whole time.
Her shoulders relaxed a little. It took less than 20 minutes for the door to slide open again. 2 medical officers entered slowly, their movements careful and non-threatening. Both froze when they saw her.
Easy, Elias said quietly. She scares easily. They nodded and stayed near the door.
Dr. Harlan stepped forward, just enough to observe. I've never seen this species, she said softly. Elias, how is she responding to you? She calms down when I'm close, he replied. When I move away, she panics. Harlan's brow furrowed. That's unusual. As if to prove the point, Elias shifted his weight slightly, standing up. She reacted instantly. Her body tightened, her breathing quickened, and the soft glow of her skin dimmed sharply. Elias sat back down at once. Sorry. I'm here. The change was immediate. Her breathing slowed. The glow returned. The medical officers exchanged looks. Her stress response is linked to you, Harlan said. Directly. That's not possible, one of the others murmured. Bonding usually takes weeks.
Months. I don't think it's bonding, Harlan said slowly.
I think it's perception. Perception of what? Of emotional state, Harlan replied. Humans are expressive. Even when you think you're not. Elias frowned. You're saying she feels my emotions? I'm saying she may feel stability in you, Harlan said. Something familiar, something safe. Elias looked down at her. She was watching him again, her eyes calm now, trusting in a way that made his chest ache.
What happens if I leave? He asked quietly. Harlan hesitated.
We don't know, she admitted. But based on her reaction so far, I wouldn't recommend testing it yet. Elias let out a slow breath. So what do we do for now? Harlan said. We observe, we learn, and we make sure she's not alone. The words settled heavily in the room. Elias nodded.
Okay, Harlan softened her voice. Elias.
You understand this is temporary? We'll find a solution. He looked at the small figure curled near his bed. I hope so, he said, because somewhere deep down, a quiet fear had already begun to grow. Not of her, but of what would happen when she realized that one human might not be enough forever. Elias's room stopped feeling like his after the 3rd day. It was not because she took up space. She was small, quiet, and careful. It was because the room had changed its purpose. It was no longer a place to rest after work. It was a place where something fragile was being held together. Medical staff came and went in quiet shifts. They moved slowly, spoke softly, and learned very quickly not to stand between her and Elias. Every time someone blocked her view of him, her body reacted before her mind did. Her breathing would quicken. The light of her skin would dim. So they adapted. Sensors were placed gently around the room, non-invasive. No restraints, no sudden lights, no loud sounds. Station Command had questions, many of them. But for now, they allowed the situation to continue. Elias had been placed on temporary leave. He did not argue. He sat on the floor most of the time, back against the bed, legs stretched out. She stayed close, not touching, but always near enough that she could see him clearly. If he leaned forward, she leaned too. If he sighed, her breathing shifted to match. At first, Elias thought he was imagining it. Then Dr. Harlan showed him the data. She's synchronizing, Harlan said quietly, showing him the screen.
Heart rate, breathing rhythm.
Neural calm cycles. Elias stared at the lines moving in gentle patterns.
With me? Yes, Harlan replied. And it's not passive.
She's not copying you. She's stabilizing through you. Elias rubbed his hands together nervously. I don't even know how I'm doing that. That's the problem, Harlan said.
Neither do we. They tried controlled tests, very carefully.
Elias was asked to slow his breathing. When he did, her breathing followed within seconds. He was asked to think of something calm. A memory from Earth. Rain on glass. Quiet mornings. The sensor showed her neural activity smoothing almost immediately. When he was stressed, when he worried, when fear crept into his thoughts, her skin dimmed and her muscles tightened. You're like an anchor, Harlan said, half in awe, half in concern. Elias did not like that word.
What happens if I break?
He asked. Harlan did not answer right away. That silence said enough. They tried introducing other humans, slowly, carefully, one at a time. The first was a nurse who had worked with Elias for years. Calm, kind, familiar. The moment Elias stepped back to make room, her reaction was immediate. Her eyes widened, her body folded inward. Her breathing became sharp and uneven. Elias rushed back to her side.
I'm here. I'm here.
It took several long minutes before her body settled again. She doesn't recognize others the same way, Harlan said later.
It's not about humans in general. Elias frowned. Then why me? They did not know. The translator continued to improve as it learned her patterns. Words came more clearly now, though still limited. Concepts mattered more than grammar. One quiet cycle, when the room lights were dim and the station hummed softly around them. She spoke more than she ever had before. Elias had been sitting quietly, staring out at the stars through the viewport. She shifted closer.
Noise? She said. Elias turned his head.
Noise? Inside, she continued, placing a hand lightly against her chest. Always. Elias nodded slowly.
Thoughts? She tilted her head. Fear. The word landed heavily.
Of what? Elias asked. She hesitated. Alone. Elias swallowed. Have you always been alone? Her skin dimmed slightly. Many, she said. Together. Always together. What happened? He asked gently. Her hands curled inward. Lost, she said. Dark travel, quiet ship. Elias felt a cold knot form in his stomach. You survived, he said. She looked at him. No sleep, no calm. Breaking. Elias understood then. Her species did not just dislike being alone. They could not survive it. Sleep, for them, was shared. Minds linked through presence. Emotional balance maintained through constant awareness of others. Alone, their thoughts turned inward, spiraling until they collapsed under their own weight, and she had been alone. For too long. You, she said softly. Quiet noise. Elias blinked. Quiet noise. She searched for the words. Inside you, messy. Warm. Safe. Elias laughed quietly, a short sound of disbelief. That's one way to describe a human mind. She watched him closely. Stay? She asked. The question was simple. The weight behind it was not. I'm here, Elias said, right now. But the station did not stop moving just because one room had become special. Reports spread, quietly at first, then faster. Other members of her species were found. Not many, just a few. All showing signs of severe distress. All gravitating toward human areas, human voices, human presence. One was found asleep outside a human childcare center, curled against the wall. Another was discovered sitting silently in a crowded cafeteria, calm only when surrounded by noise and movement. The pattern was impossible to ignore. Humans were not just comforting them. Humans were stabilizing them. Emergency meetings were held. Diplomatic channels opened. Ethical debates exploded across station command. This creates dependency, one representative argued.
You can't make humans responsible for another species' mental survival. We didn't make this, another replied. We discovered it. And what happens when the humans leave? Someone else asked.
No one had an answer. Elias was called into a private briefing. He sat across from a projected group of officials, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. You didn't choose this, one of them said.
But you are at the center of it, Elias nodded. I know. She bonded to you during extreme trauma, another said.
That bond may not transfer? So I'm the problem? Elias asked quietly. No, Harlan said, appearing on the side display. You're the proof? Of what? Elias asked. That emotional presence is not weakness. Harlan said. It's a survival trait. Elias thought of the first night, of her standing silently in the corridor, of the fear in her eyes. What happens if I say I can't do this? He asked. The room fell silent. Harlan spoke carefully. Then we would have to sedate her, isolate her. Try artificial stabilization, and would it work? Harlan did not meet his eyes. Elias exhaled slowly. Then that's not an option, he said. The meeting ended without resolution. Back in his quarters, she sensed his tension the moment he entered. Her skin dimmed.
I'm okay, he said quickly, forcing calm into his voice. He sat down near her.
Just tired. She watched him closely. Lying, she said. Elias blinked. Then he laughed softly.
Yeah. She moved closer. This time, she did something new.
She reached out and placed her hand gently on his arm. The contact was light, careful, asking permission without words. Elias held his breath, then relaxed. Her skin brightened. The sensors went wild. Neural synchronization increased beyond anything recorded before. Stress markers dropped sharply. Doc Harlan's voice came through the comm, almost disbelieving. Elias, whatever just happened, don't move. Elias stayed still. She's not just stabilizing, Harlan continued. She's learning. Elias looked down at the small hand resting on his arm.
Learning what?
He wondered. And what would happen when she no longer needed him the way she did now? The question stayed with him long after the room fell quiet again, because for the first time since she had followed him home, Elias realized something terrifying. She was getting better, and that meant change was coming. Elias noticed it in small ways. She no longer startled when the door slid open. She no longer needed to see him every second. Sometimes, when he stood to stretch or move around the room, she only watched him instead of reacting with fear. Her breathing stayed calm. The light of her skin stayed warm. Harlan noticed it too. She's building internal stability, Harlan said during one of the quiet observation cycles.
It's slow, but it's real, Elias nodded, but the words sat heavy in his chest. That stability came with questions.
More people were allowed into the room now. Always carefully, always with Elias present. Scientists, diplomats, medical specialists. They spoke softly, moved slowly, and learned her limits. She tolerated them. but she did not choose them. Her eyes always returned to Elias.
She tracks you differently, one xenologist said.
Not like a caretaker, like a reference point. Elias did not know whether that made him feel better or worse. Outside the room, the station was changing. Human-only rest zones were quietly expanded. Not announced, just adjusted. Benches added softer lighting. Areas where noise was allowed instead of controlled. Because more of her people were coming. Not ships, not fleets. Individuals. They arrived confused, exhausted, emotionally frayed. Some collapsed the moment they were alone. Others wandered until they found human presence and then stopped, as if they had reached land after nearly drowning. It frightened the station council.
"You're creating a biological dependency,"
one representative said during a heated meeting.
"This is not sustainable. Neither is letting them collapse," another replied. "And what about the humans?" a third demanded.
"You're asking them to carry the emotional weight of another species." Elias listened from a secure feed, his jaw tight. He had not been asked yet, but he knew it was coming. Back in his quarters, she sensed his tension again. "Heavy," she said softly. He sighed. "Yeah." She shifted closer, not touching this time, just near enough. "Why?" Elias hesitated. "How did you explain interstellar politics to someone who had nearly lost herself to silence?"
"They're afraid,"
he said finally.
"of what this means."
She tilted her head.
"Help is bad?"
"No," Elias said quickly.
"Helping is good, but..."
They worry it will change things. She thought about that for a long moment. "Change is coming," she said simply.
The translator delivered the words clearly. Elias looked at her in surprise. "You understand that?" She nodded. "I feel it." That night, for the first time, Elias dreamed. He dreamed of standing in a vast dark space, filled with quiet minds drifting apart like dying stars. He reached out, not with hands, but with presence. One by one, lights appeared. Small, fragile, alive. He woke with his heart racing. She was awake too, watching him.
"Bad dream," she said. "Yeah," Elias admitted.
She moved closer. This time, she leaned her head lightly against his arm. Elias froze. Then he let himself relax. Her skin glowed softly. The sensors recorded another spike in synchronization, but something else appeared too. A new pattern. "She's not just stabilizing from you anymore," Harlan said later, voice tight with concern. "She's starting to generate her own calming cycles." "That's good, right?" Elias asked.
"Yes," Harlan said, "and also dangerous." "Dangerous how? She may soon be able to sleep without you."
Elias felt the words hit like a slow, dull ache.
"And if she does, then the bond will change," Harlan said. "Not disappear, but shift."
Elias nodded slowly. "She deserves that." Harlan studied him. "Do you believe that? Or are you afraid of what it means for you?" Elias did not answer. The question followed him through the next few cycles. When he spoke less, she noticed. "Quiet, sad," she said once. "I'm okay," he replied automatically. She shook her head. "Not same." She was learning him. That scared him more than anything else. Then the decision came. Station Command issued a directive, carefully worded, politely phrased. A pilot program. Selected humans would volunteer to act as emotional anchors for members of her species during rest cycles. Training would be provided. Support systems built. Elias would be asked to step back, slowly, over time,
You're not being removed, the official assured him.
You're being relieved. Elias stared at the message long after it ended. Relieved.
He went back to his quarters and found her sitting near the viewport, watching the stars. They want others to help, he said. She looked at him. Others like you? Yes. She considered that. Good, she said after a moment. Elias blinked.
You think so? Many lights better than one, she replied. The simplicity of it hurt.
You won't be alone, Elias said. She turned toward him fully.
You will go, not completely, he said, just less. She studied his face carefully, reading things even. He did not fully understand. You afraid, she said softly.
Elias laughed weakly.
Yeah.
Of leaving, of being needed, he corrected. She frowned, trying to understand.
Needed hurts? Sometimes, Elias said. She was quiet for a long time.
Then she did something unexpected. She stood.
She took 2 careful steps away from him. Elias's heart jumped, but he forced himself not to move. She paused. Her breathing stayed steady. The glow of her skin flickered, then stabilized. She took another step. The sensors chimed softly, recording something new. She's doing it, Harlan whispered over the comm. She's self-regulating. She stopped and looked back at Elias. See? She said. Elias felt his throat tighten. I see, he said. She took 1 more step away, then sat down. Alone, but calm. The room was silent. After a moment, she smiled. It was small, uncertain, but real. Thank you, she said. The translator delivered the words perfectly. Elias closed his eyes for a second. He had helped her survive. Now he had to help her grow. Outside the room, the station adjusted its plans. More humans volunteered than expected. Some out of curiosity, some out of kindness, some because they understood, deeply, what it meant to stay with someone in the dark. A new role entered the official records. Emotional stabilizer. No weapons. No authority. Just presence. And across the station, and then across human space, a quiet realization began to spread. Humanity's greatest strength was not what it could destroy. It was what it refused to leave alone. The first night, Elias did not stay. He sat outside the door for a long time. He did not go far, just the corridor bench across from his quarters. The door remained closed. Inside, the lights were dimmed to the soft level she preferred. Station sensors watched everything. Medical teams were ready. Emergency overrides waited on silent standby. Elias waited too. Inside the room, she lay on the floor near the bed, just as she always had. Her body was curled, but not tight with fear. Her breathing was slow, uneven at first, then smoother. She was awake. She could feel it. The space where Elias usually was. The familiar emotional noise, messy and warm, was quieter now, not gone, just farther away. Still there, she whispered to herself. She focused inward, like she had been taught. The techniques were new, built slowly over many cycles. She remembered his calm, his breathing, the way his presence felt. She tried to hold that feeling on her own. Outside, Elias flinched when the sensors showed a brief spike in her stress markers. Then they settled.
Alan watched the data with held breath. She's doing it, she said softly.
Minutes passed, then an hour. She slept. When morning lights brightened, Elias was still there. The door slid open quietly. She stepped out, slow and careful, her eyes searching. They found him immediately. You waited, she said. Elias smiled, tired but genuine. Yeah. Her skin brightened in response, but it did not flare the way it once had. The bond had shifted. just as Harlan predicted. It no longer held her together. It connected her. That changed everything. Over the next cycles, the station adapted faster than anyone expected. Humans volunteered in waves, not because they were ordered to, not because they were paid, because they understood. Parents, teachers, nurses, engineers, people who knew how to sit quietly with someone who was afraid, people who stayed. Training programs were created, but they focused less on technique and more on awareness, breathing, emotional honesty, presence without control. Other species watched with confusion. "You do this without machines?" one delegate asked. "Yes," a human representative replied. "We always have." Her people began to stabilize across the station. Slowly, carefully, not all at once. Some needed more time. Some needed groups. Some only needed noise, laughter, movement. But none of them needed to be alone anymore. She became something new among her people, not a leader.
A bridge. She learned language quickly now.
Concepts came easier. She spoke with scientists, then with other members of her species, explaining what she had learned the hard way. "Alone does not mean lost," she told them. If memory stays. Elias watched her change with quiet pride and a growing ache. She no longer slept near his bed. She no longer panicked when he left the room. Sometimes she forgot to look for him at all. That hurt more than he expected. One cycle, he almost told Harlan he wanted to step back fully, let others take over. Let the bond fade. Harlan listened quietly.
"You can," she said, "if that's what you need." Elias stared at his hands.
"I don't want to be needed forever," he said. "But I don't want to disappear either." Harlan nodded.
Then don't. The answer was simple. Too simple.
Elias found her later, near one of the new rest zones. Humans sat nearby, talking softly. Her people rested among them, calm and quiet. She noticed him and smiled.
"You came," she said. "I didn't want to interrupt," he replied.
"You never interrupt," she said. They walked together for a while, not touching, just moving side by side. "I remember why I followed you," she said suddenly.
Elias blinked. "You do?" She nodded.
"Before the dark travel, before I was alone."
She stopped walking and looked at him fully. "You stopped," she said. Elias frowned. "Stopped? Emergency." "Loud. Fear. Everywhere," she explained. Others ran. "You stayed." Elias felt his chest tighten. He remembered that moment, a minor station incident, a frightened worker frozen in place. Elias had stayed with them until help arrived, even though alarms were sounding.
"You stayed with fear," she said. "So fear did not grow."
Elias swallowed. "I just didn't want them to be alone." She smiled gently.
"That is why," she said. Weeks passed. Then, months. The program expanded beyond the station. Other habitats, other worlds. Humans became known for something no one had predicted. They were not the strongest. They were not the smartest. They were the ones who stayed. Elias returned to work. His old routines came back, altered but familiar. Sometimes, after long shifts, he would visit the rest zones. Sometimes she was there. Sometimes she was not. When she was, they talked. When she was not, he felt okay. That surprised him. One quiet cycle, she found him instead. "I will leave soon," she said. Elias froze. "Leave? Home," she clarified. What is left of it? The word home felt fragile between them. "They need you,"
Elias said. They need what I learned, she replied.
He nodded slowly. I'm glad. She watched his face carefully. You sad, she said. A little, he admitted. That is okay, she said. They stood near the viewport, stars stretching endlessly beyond the glass. I will not forget, she said. I know, Elias replied. She hesitated, then did something she had never done before. She embraced him. It was brief, gentle, perfectly balanced. When she stepped back, her skin glowed warmly, steady and strong. You taught me how to be alone, she said. Elias smiled through the tightness in his chest. You taught me how to stay. The day she left, the station was quiet. No speeches, no ceremonies, just a ship departing into the dark, carrying something new with it. Not fear, not silence, but memory. Elias watched until the stars swallowed the ship completely. He did not feel empty. He felt changed. Across human space, the story spread, not as legend, not as myth, but as quiet truth. When the universe met humanity, it expected fire. What it found instead was presence. And it was enough.